everyone. I am JAYNA DONAYRE, Director of Communications at the Latino Leaders Network, a nonprofit organization celebrating 18 years of bringing leaders together since 2004. I am honored to be your host today. Welcome to the first Cafecito Series event of 2022, our new digital platform designed to educate, inspire, and prepare the next generation of leaders. We will present our Rising Star Award, followed by an intergenerational conversation with two outstanding leaders. Today's honoree, Nathalie Huerta, founder of the first LGBTQ+ gym in America, the Queer Gym, will receive our Rising Star Award and will then be joined by Maria Salinas for a conversation on Latino small business and entrepreneurship, moderated by Antonio Tijerino. We will also share a brief video clip of emerging Latina and Latino leaders featured in Our Stories Move Us Forward, Then, Now, and Tomorrow digital campaign. And we will get all of this accomplished in less than 45 minutes, so please stay tuned. I'd like to thank the Board of Directors of the Latino Leaders Network for joining us from coast to coast and for their support of our mission of bringing leaders together. Our premier sponsor of the 2022 Cafecito Series is Wells Fargo. It's my pleasure to introduce Ruben Barales, Senior Vice President of External Affairs, for premier sponsor remarks. Thank you, Ruben. We appreciate your support.
Thank you, JAYNA, and congratulations to Nathalie Huerta for her accomplishments, recognition, and we're looking for so much from her helping to lead our community forward in years to come. I also want to thank Mickey IBARRA and the Latino Leaders Network for all that you've accomplished in helping to bring our community together. And a special recognition to Antonio and Maria, who are here with us, two great national Latino leaders who help our community move forward. You know, at Wells Fargo, we have the most number of branches in the most number of communities across the country. And as the #1 bank helping Latino families purchase homes, we know how important home ownership is in terms of creating wealth within the Latino community. We have thousands and thousands of Latinos and Latinas that work at Wells Fargo, and we care about our community. And that's why we're so proud to be sponsors of gatherings like this today and other opportunities to bring the Latino community forward, celebrate who we are, and to help us move forward. So again, from Wells Fargo, thank you for being here. Thank you for letting us be a part of today's program and looking forward to the discussion. Thanks.
Thank you, Ruben. Southwest Airlines is the official airline of the Latino Leaders Network. Thank you, Kelly Knox. Viewers will have a chance to win a round-trip flight courtesy of Southwest Airlines for joining us today. Details to follow. And thanks also to the American Petroleum Institute for their support. Before presenting the Rising Star Award, please let us share a brief video featuring 5 emerging leaders from the Latino Leaders Network digital campaign, Our Stories Move Us Forward.
Our stories move us forward.
Then, now, and tomorrow.
My name is Cindy Rios, and I am a dreamer.
My name is Siriac Alvarez Valle, born in Cuernavaca, Mexico.
My name is Junior Enrique Sanchez. I am a Mexican-born dreamer.
My name is Valeria Jimenez. I am Mexican-American and a graduate of the University of Utah.
My name is Felipe Tristan. I'm a conductor from Mexico and serve as music director of the Symphony Orchestra of the Americas.
My story is powerful.
I was born in Chiquimula, Guatemala, and grew up in West Valley City.
Empowering the Latinx community is a passion of mine that has been instilled in me throughout my life.
I am motivated by the struggles and sacrifices that others have made to help lift me up. Now, it is my turn to give back.
It is my honor to advocate for a more diverse and inclusive classical music industry.
I have shaped my career around direct action, community organizing, and spoken word poetry to amplify the voices of impacted communities.
I help undocumented students pursue a pathway to higher education.
I give credit for where I am today to my support system, my immediate family, and my close friends.
Our stories move us forward. Then, now, and tomorrow.
I am proud to introduce Chairman Mickey IBARRA of the Latino Leaders Network, our champion and my mentor, for the presentation of the Rising Star Award. Welcome, Mickey.
Thank you, JAYNA. Raised in Anaheim, California, the daughter of Mexican immigrants and former farm workers, and number 8 in her family of 10, Our Rising Star honoree, Nathalie Huerta, became the first of her siblings to graduate college, earning a BS in exercise and sports medicine from the University of San Francisco and an MBA from Mills College. A former collegiate basketball player turned personal trainer, she was inspired to open the first LGBTQ+ gym in America due to her own personal experience feeling unwelcome and unsafe at corporate gyms. Founded in Oakland, California in 2010, the Queer Gym is the first LGBTQ+ gym in the nation. Due to the pandemic, the gym has moved 100% virtual and serves as a safe place for everyone. Nathalie graduated from Stanford University's Latino Entrepreneurship Leaders Program. Bustle named her a queer woman in wellness you should know. The California Hispanic Chamber of Commerce recognized her with the Rising Star Empresaria Award in 2018. Nathalie, for all those reasons and more, on behalf of the Latino Leaders Network, it is my pleasure to present you with our Rising Star Award for your outstanding leadership, courage, and extraordinary commitment to the community. Congratulations, Nathalie.
Thank you, Mickey. Thank you, Latino Leaders Network, for this award, for this opportunity to be here with you all today and honor and share my story. As Mickey mentioned, I come from a huge family. I grew up in Orange County, and I grew up witnessing entrepreneurship in the first row. My parents, including most of my siblings, are all entrepreneurs. And so I was hit with entrepreneur influences left and right growing up my entire life. I would say definitely, though, the most impactful was obviously witnessing my parents migrate here, build their business, have it run for 35 years, and just the multiple daily lessons that I was witnessing but didn't really know the significance and the impact of it until now that I myself am an entrepreneur. You know, so like little moments, like I remember when computers first came out and my mom sitting in the office, like counting on her fingers how to do payroll. I remember me driving home and crying and being like, it's hard, I'm gonna quit. And my mom gave me a little cachetada, told me to stop my whining, stop my crying, drive my butt back to my house and get to work because I had a failing business and what was I doing taking a vacation? So these little moments all equate to who I am today and what I do today. And essentially that's provide a safe space for the queer community, which is also something that I learned from my parents because I am the only queer kid in my family. I grew up super Catholic, and I remember coming out to my parents and that being a very challenging time for them and for myself. And at that moment, they had a choice to love me, house me, continue to nurture who I was becoming, or let fear and hate kind of take over. And so my parents, I am privileged to say that my parents decided to continue to love me, and instead of letting hate in their heart, expand their mind, and get to know me as I was getting to know me. And they allowed me to do that by providing a safe space for me in our home. And so now I'm in a position where I can return that favor to other queer kids that don't necessarily have a safe space to be themselves. So a lot of you might be wondering what the Queer Gym is and how it came to be. And I was somebody who grew up in sports. I loved going to the gyms. I loved playing basketball. So the gym for me was like my happy place when I looked like a cis hetero female. The minute that I started to become more comfortable with who I am and my presentation, I started to present more masculine. And that's when I quickly noticed the gym just got very weird very fast. And the only thing that had changed was that I, quote unquote, looked a little bit more gay. And so for me, I figured I can't be the only person having this experience. Where do queer people work out? And after not finding anything, I was essentially inspired to create America's first queer gym back in 2010. And if you're wondering, what exactly that is and why we exist because like I've shared in my story, I'm not the only one who doesn't feel comfortable and safe in most gyms. We exist because we're the only gym that is open-minded enough, that's skilled enough, knowledgeable enough to train particular parts of our queer community, specifically the trans community. We provide training for people in the trans community who are getting ready for gender-affirming surgeries, or just, you know, the whole journey in itself. And so we've had the gym now for 13 years. We have survived and thrived in the pandemic, and we continue to serve the queer community and on our mission of like making happy, healthy homos. So I look forward to talking a little bit more about this in the panel. Once again, thank you so much to Mickey, to the Latino Leaders Network, for being here today, for having your time, for having your attention. I'm ready for some cafecito. I'm ready to talk. And I, again, am grateful, humbled to be here. Thank you all. Gracias. Have a great day.
Grateful for your leadership, Nathalie, and congratulations once again. Thanks so much for sharing your deeply personal story with us. And now for a conversation with our honoree and Maria S. Salinas, President and CEO of the Los Angeles Area Chamber of Commerce. We are delighted to also welcome Antonio Tijerino, President and CEO of the Hispanic Heritage Foundation and longtime friend of the Latino Leaders Network. Established by the White House in 1987, the Hispanic Heritage Foundation is an award-winning nonprofit that inspires and positions Latino leaders in the classroom, community, and workforce to meet America's priorities. We are thrilled to have you with us to moderate the conversation, Antonio. The program is now all yours.
Thank you for the introduction, JAYNA, and it's my pleasure to join the Latino Leaders Network for today's Cafecito Series. Thank you to my friend and an important presence in our community, Mickey IBARRA, for inviting me to moderate today's intergenerational conversation featuring Nathalie Huerta, founder of the Queer Gym, the first LGBTQ plus gym in the nation, and someone that I've been proud to feature on the Hispanic Heritage Foundation Charla series several times. And Maria S. Salinas, President and CEO of the Los Angeles Area Chamber of Commerce, where we also have a headquarters. Our conversation will focus on Latino small business and entrepreneurship. Latinos are starting businesses at a faster rate than the national average across almost all industries, and especially Latinas. We hope today's panel will inspire all who dream about starting a business and empower those who have already launched their entrepreneurial journey. Please join me in welcoming Maria Salinas and bringing back Nathalie Huerta. So, tell us about your personal journey to entrepreneurship and how it impacted the work you lead now, and what were the obstacles to overcome to achieve your success, but also those opportunities for success that often go hand in hand with the obstacles.
I will go. So for me, my personal story essentially started from the point where, you know, I grew up an athlete. I was always comfortable in gyms. I loved going to the gym. I wasn't somebody who didn't like the gym, who didn't know what to do in there. But in this point of my life, I wasn't necessarily most comfortable with my sexuality at that point. So I was presenting feminine. So I was passing as straight in a gym setting. And we all know that's not the most, welcoming experience either for women in gyms. But for me, I really noticed that experience changed drastically when I started to present more masculine. I obviously looked, quote unquote, more gay at this point. And that's when things really changed for me in a negative way, to the point where the gyms were not welcoming. I didn't feel safe. It didn't matter that I've been in a gym my whole life, that I was a trainer at that point. What seemed to only matter was that I was gay and I looked outwardly gay, and that really changed the dynamics in the gyms for me, to the point where I would go to work, do my job, and then I would go work out myself at home or at a park. I would just go in, do my job, get out, and go do my own stuff somewhere else where I felt comfortable and I felt safe. And so that was initially the seed for me of like, okay, if I'm someone who enjoys the gym, knows how to use the equipment in here, how to do my thing in here, and I hate coming here simply because I look gay now, what is that experience for somebody who is also looks gay, but doesn't know how to use the equipment, doesn't know how to feel comfortable and feel productive when they're in here. Then I was like, wait, no wonder I don't ever see people who look like me in here. Like, it's not welcoming, it's not safe. And that was the initial plant, like the initial seed for what later on became to be the queer gym. And I think, that was a problem, but that also created the opportunity. And I started to, research. I was like, there has to be a gay gym. Like, where do people like me go? Like, where do we work out? And I Googled and Googled and Googled, and there was nothing. Like, at that point, if I'm being completely transparent, the only Google response that I got back was porn. And I'm like, not the workout I'm looking for. Okay. And one of my brags now is that if you Google queer gym, queer fitness, lesbian trainer, now you're actually like, I made something that's Googleable now. Is that a word? Googleable? I made that thing now. Like, we pioneered that space. So, there's always a silver lining in it. I'm glad that I was able to find that silver lining and took the risk and basically carved out a niche in the fitness industry. And we're now a concept that's Googleable. That's a word.
which is why it's so important that you're in the position that you are, and why you're being featured here right now. That representation is critical, and it was a void. So thank you for filling it. That's real leadership. Let me go to Maria.
Yeah, that's so inspiring. I love that story. And it really is, very common story for many entrepreneurs who just find a passion and they're finding that little niche that they can't quite see, how do they get their work done? And so it's so inspiring to hear you talk about that, Nathalie. For me, I think opportunity comes in different sizes and shapes. I had worked in professional services. I was with corporate America, with the Walt Disney Company for many years, just with a lot of experience in the finance area. And I actually stepped out of the workforce when I had my children. I'm also the mother of 4 boys. They're all grown now. But at the time, I really struggled with trying to define, what is work-life balance. And I decided to step out on my own. It took a lot of courage for me to really do that, to say this is something I can do on my own, to form a consultancy in the finance and accounting area. And when I did that, I really thought I had left my professional career, that I really didn't see how I could have a long-term career path ahead, having stepped out of my corporate job. And what I did is I leaned into relationships that I had and friends in the community, and just explained, I'm going to start a business. I'm going to have all this experience in finance and accounting, and I think I could bring people together. I think I can help with large organizations. I reached out to about 5 of my closest friends, and out of those 5 meetings came Salinas Consulting, which was the accounting and finance consultancy that I started, and I was around for about 14 years before I came into this role at the chamber. But that experience of learning how to jump into something and not really knowing where it was going to take you, having the courage to leave a safety net, and realizing I needed a different kind of balance, and being the head of an organization as small as it was at the time, it's still I was able to hire other people. I was able to work with major organizations, and really makes me a big believer in entrepreneurs and startups and folks like Nathalie, who have a dream and a vision and have, an aspiration to do something great. And now in my role, I get to want to help the Nathalies of the world.
But that experience that you have, that perspective that you have, from having to take that step, and the courage that you had to muster, and the tenacity and the resilience, all of that makes you superbly qualified to run the chamber in LA. So just real leadership that's being demonstrated right here. And so let me jump to the next question, which is, you are both entrepreneurs, obviously, but reflect back to when you decided to start your own business. And you both touched upon it, but I wanted to dig in of this in terms of fleshing out what are those biggest fears and challenges that you had when you first started. And you mentioned, Maria and Nathalie, you know, kind of that transition where you went from seeing a need to supporting that need. But can you just talk real quickly about what were some of those fears, even though you kind of mentioned them a little more, just flesh them out a little more.
And I'll jump in here because this one, I talk about this over and over again. It's just confidence in myself, you know, having that self-doubt that, you know, I think I can do that. I should do this, but maybe I'm not worthy enough. Maybe it's not something that's for me. And, you know, you hear this a lot where, you know, we tend to be our biggest barrier is our own thinking of how we think of ourselves. And I definitely went through that experience, and it took me a long time to really get the courage again to say, no, you know, I can do this. I have a lot of experience. And sometimes it was people on the outside, you know, folks that I had worked with and said, oh yeah, you'd be a natural for this, or you're perfectly set up for that. And I'd have to say, oh, really? So it's that confidence, I think, for me is probably the one thing that I would point to most.
For me, I would love to say it was confidence. I think part of it was ignorance for me. Like I started the business, I was 25, I was in the middle of grad school. We were coming out of the recession. And I think in retrospect, I'm like, you were crazy. That was wild. But I think at that point, like, my dream, all I was focused was like on the dream, you know. And I think for me, one of the challenges, I think people believed in me. I don't necessarily think people believed in the concept. You know, I had people from business coaches tell me like, that's too niche down. There's not enough gay people to make this happen for you. Like, you need to do the opposite of niching here. You're doing that too much. To people questioning me like, so why do you even need a queer gym? Like, what are you gonna do? Like, you do queer push-ups? Like, what does that even look like? So, you know, for me, people were like, you're a winner, you'll figure it out, you'll win at whatever you do. But then when I explained what I was trying to do, that's really where a lot of the doubt came in. And I can see why, but also like, don't shoot down my dream. You know, it's like, because it doesn't exist, this is an opportunity. This is what entrepreneurs do. They maximize on opportunities. And so, you know, thank God for a little bit of ignorance and belief in, you know, in my dream and what I saw, that I was able to, you know, push through that and end up pioneering the space.
Yeah.
No, thank you for that. And that's a real pioneer move. So I want to make sure that I want to get to all of the questions because we have so much to learn from both of you. So can you talk really quickly about how COVID-19 has impacted the work that you're leading now? So I'll start with Nathalie. What advice can you share with other small business owners as they navigate through this continued uncertainty, especially at a gym, which was like, I remember the announcement, don't go to gyms. So how is that working right now? And then Maria, if you could jump in after, what resources are available through the chamber in LA. So let's start with you, Nathalie, and I would love to hear about what is happening right now and hopefully is in our rear view mirror, even though it always seems to be in our side view mirror.
Yeah. I would say, you know, for me, the advice I would give is number one, self-care, because the fact that we're in this pandemic, we've been in this for almost 3 years now. I mean, that alone is, you know, demanding of more self-care. But then on top of that, you layer that with entrepreneurship. Please, self-care, like that to me is a non-negotiable. The other thing I would say is keeping an open mind. 50% of the gyms in the United States closed due to the pandemic permanently. And I remember the very first weeks when this was happening, there was a portion of gym owners that were like, we're going to lean into this whole COVID thing. We'll figure it out. There was a percentage of people that were like, we're going to wait it out. We're going to wait it out. Those businesses completely died out. And then there was people that were just like, nope, I'm not doing online. I'm going to keep doing my thing. And if I get shut down, and so I think there was a lot of power in being able to ebb and flow with this whole situation. And keeping an open mind is definitely a huge asset trying to navigate what it's throwing at us, what it's been throwing at us for the last couple of years.
I'm actually going to jump over to another question because I really I think it's very important whenever we do these things, there's always a struggle to get funding in terms of capital. So Maria, how can these businesses get access to funding and what resources are available?
Yeah, I'm gonna tout the work of the Small Business Administration. I think the SBA has gone through its own change over time from the beginning of the pandemic to where they're at today. Even struggling to reach those small businesses, minority-owned businesses, women-owned businesses, and I think they've learned and implemented new programs. The SBA funds something called the Small Business Development Centers, which are free resources to small businesses so that you can understand how to, the basics of, having the right infrastructure to grow and to ensure that you're managing cash, you have business plans. A lot of the times the access to capital issue comes with the lack of your infrastructure. So what do we need? We need technical assistance. One of the very first things that we advocated for was not only providing grants and loans to small businesses, but to make sure that it also included technical assistance support. And that has been one of the saving grace for so many small businesses that can go into an SBDC, or they can come to a place like the LA Chamber and learn about cash management, learn about digital solutions for revenue growth, learn about, different funding mechanisms that are available, learn about contracting, how to do procurement, within your local community, with the state, with the federal government. There are gym recommendations that employers have. How do you get into that network, to bolster a business like yours, Natalie? I think those are the kind of resources that are available at chambers like the LA Chamber, as well as, demystifying, how government works that has all these resources. And I just want to say one other thing to Natalie's point that she mentioned earlier. I think entrepreneurs are in the best position to know about their dream, to know their passion, to know what they are all in for. We should be there to support you with everything else around that. I would never question an entrepreneur's dream because you know it best. And if you're passionate about it, it's going to work. So I'm glad you didn't listen to anybody.
Me too.
Maria, that is so important what you just laid out, those surrounding services. And that building a sustainable model. And that's really, really critical. I want to ask Natalie, and you can weigh in as well, is that overwhelming feeling when you start a business or anything that we do, especially over the last 2 years. And how do you deal with everything from imposter syndrome, or that thought that you had was I worthy of this? The stress of having to carry this. Let's face it, as Latinas, even more than anyone else, you carry extra burdens. And sometimes these businesses are launched on the backs of family and friends as well, because of that lack of access to capital and a lot of other things. So can you talk about the mental health piece of being in entrepreneurship and balancing it all out, especially when we're faced with 2 years of social unrest, along with a worldwide pandemic and everything else that we've been dealing with?
It is a heavy topic for me. I've had my company for, this summer is going to be 13 years. We celebrated our 10-year anniversary the first summer of the pandemic. And, I'm reminded that even though I've had my company for 13 years, I've had this version of this company for the last 3 years. So running a brick and mortar is very different than running an online company. You know, we're 100% virtual, and we're going to stay 100% virtual even after the pandemic. But that was a whole new animal to, you know, to figure out. And being online and now being in the world of social media and cancel culture, the silver lining was that when we went online, we tripled in the first 12 weeks. Mm-hmm. We had clients now from all over the US. We had trainers from all over the US having to figure out, you know, how to employ people across different states and their taxes and kind of how all that works. So you mix the idea of like, okay, well, now we are a completely virtual online company during the pandemic, during cancel culture, and my mental health went down the dumps. I had severe anxiety, depression. You know, there was a moment where I had like suicidal thoughts. And what saved me was my self-care routine. I 100% dove into a pretty extreme self-care routine because my situation was pretty acute. And so it just demanded that level of commitment to my self-care. And it was really, really my friends, my family, my wife that, you know, still keep me here because I'm not 100% out of that yet. And so it's been rough. You know, we went through an experience with cancel culture where, you know, they really managed to make a dent in our business in a negative way, and we're still trying to rebuild and you know, kind of cash flow the rebuilding of that. But when you got mental health, you have cash flow issues. It requires the self-care, it requires the support of the people who really, really care about you, not the followers, not the paying customers. It's the inner circle behind the scenes crew that holds it down for you.
Nathalie, thank you for sharing that with us. I've always said that there's power in vulnerability, and that allows others to circle around you. I just think of the irony that a lot of us would go to gyms and look at physical exercise as a way to get out of our depressions, out of our, as part of our wellness routine. So that must have been an extra burden that you knew all these people were depending on you to deal with the issue that you were dealing with. And I just can't tell you how inspiring it is to hear you talk about this. And I'm sure everyone in the audience was terribly moved and again, you know, inspired by you. Can you talk a little bit, Maria, about what you dealt with as well? I don't think this is unique, and especially the last 2 years in dealing with Nathalie and others are dealing with.
Sure, absolutely. And first, let me say, Nathalie, thank you for sharing that story, because you inspire me, you know, when I think of, you know, the reality of what the pandemic has meant to so many people and just, you know, in general, you know, life. These are the things that we have to deal with. You know, I've been in business for 35 years. I was raised to, you know, be of service to others. I was the only daughter, oldest daughter in my family. You didn't complain. You just, you know, you followed the family order that from my mother and my grandmother. And when you get into the business world, that doesn't necessarily help you, those skills that you learned at home. And I've talked often that I had to unlearn many of the habits that I had to relearn how to work within the business environment. So many places that I walked into where I was the only woman or the only Latina for many years in my business world and working in the business world. And it wasn't until maybe about 5 years ago or so where finally, you know, I got to the point where, again, others around me said, no, you're the one that, you know, has the skills. You're the one that should reach for this role. You're the one that understands and you do the work. Because I always lived in, thinking that someone else was better than me, someone else was more experienced. And how did I get to this role? So back to your question, that imposter syndrome that you talk about. And it wasn't until I took this role on at the LA Chamber, I'm only in my 4th year here, that I looked at that role and I really shed those feelings of insecurity. And I looked at the role and I thought, that's the role that I'm the best person for that role. I'm an Angelino. I've been in the business world. I understand the immigrant community. I understand businesses of all sizes. But it took me a long time to get to that point, to really be that confident person that hopefully I am today.
Thank you so much. And I want to just highlight what you just said that I think has been part of this entire discussion. I'm the best person for that role, where you go from doubting yourself to then coming all the way across where you end up, where it's I'm the best person for that role. And I think you and Nathalie have both demonstrated that during this conversation. Thank you both very much. This wraps up our panel as part of the Latino Leaders Network Cafecito Series. Thank you, Mickey, and let's go out and make an impact.
Thank you very much.
Thank you, Nathalie, Maria, and Antonio, for your participation and for inspiring us today with your knowledge and wisdom. There really is power in vulnerability. I hope today's conversation makes people feel like they are not alone and encourages more conversations around mental health and self-care. And of course, we appreciate our sponsors who made today possible: Wells Fargo, Southwest Airlines, and the American Petroleum Institute. To end the program, we ask you to view a 60-second video promoting Latino Leaders Speak and companion curriculum guide on our website. Thank you for joining us today. I hope you can tune in to our next Cafecito virtual event on Cinco de Mayo. See you then. More and more of America's school children are Latino, 25% nationwide and growing fast. There is a need for Latino role models, inspiring heroes, and outstanding leaders in the classroom. The Latino Leaders Network and the California Global Education Project have partnered to make a unique curriculum guide. It will engage students to learn about the powerful stories of Latino leaders in contemporary society.
These stories inspire us to be better members of our community, of our nation, and the world.
Our goal is to inspire the next generation of leaders from high school to early college.
Help us get the word out to educators. Let them know of this valuable new resource. Urge them to get it into our classrooms, and it's all free of charge.